Hi guys, hello. I know it's been a minute again. I feel like every time I go like on a long break, I always come here to do like some form of shalaye. And the truth of the matter is that I feel like I owe you guys because I have people in my DMs asking me questions like, where have you been? You've not been giving us content. Are you okay? What's going on and things like that. And the truth of the matter is I've just kind of like been very busy. I have the last video that I did, when I was giving my life update, I talked about the fact that I am on my law licensing journey, and it's been quite intense, and I have my bar exam coming up to be licensed here in Canada. So it's just a lot. So when you don't see me online, just know that I've been very busy, but of course I also have people at people have been reaching out to me in the DMs, and I've been kind enough to respond when I can. As you all know, when important gist comes up, I always want to come on here, talk about it, give my own takes and all of that, and which is why in today's video I'll be diving into the new policy, because I know that the last time there was an update from the minister, I came on here and I talked about that in full. And this time around, I would also be talking about the new update that came up yesterday or 2 days ago, where the minister talked about further reduction. And that's what I'm just going to be diving on here today. Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Suleeha. I'm a Nigerian YouTuber residing in Ontario, Canada. If you're stumbling on my channel for the first time, in this channel I talk about Canadian immigration, and I also sometimes vlog my day-to-day activities when I go out and stuff like that. If my type of content is your type of content or something that you really like, please watch my other videos and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you. Today's topic is going to be focusing, like I said, on what the minister talked about yesterday. Canada yet again has striked again, and sometimes it feels like, what is going on? You cannot drink water before you drop your cup. There's a new update. Before you drop your cup, there's a new update. And that's why sometimes if you make a video about something today, be rest assured that I'm going to come back here next week and I'm going to talk about something else, because the policies and laws keep changing from time to time. And from what I could pick out from what the minister said yesterday, there's going to be further reduction in people coming into Canada. And I feel like the branch of the people that are taking that are getting disadvantaged from this are the international students and the foreign workers. And I feel like with all of these policies and everything, I guess the government has said that all of these things, they are trying to strengthen their, the programs, trying to make sure that people get value for their money when they come into Canada. There's so much that the government is trying to do, which I quite understand, frankly. When the government feels like there's a strain on the country, of course they need to figure things out and they need to find a solution to that, which is why there's going to be an issue, and there's going to be like some people losing out and some people winning and things like that. So I'm going to break down the policies, at least the ones I'm going to be talking about. I think I have 5 points that I'm going to be talking about, or 4 points that I'm going to be talking about today on this channel, and then let's get right into it. So the first point that I am going to be picking out from the release that the minister talked about yesterday was the fact that there's going to be further reduction in the international students coming into Canada in the year of 2025. And let me cast your mind back to 2024, when January 2024, when the minister came on to say that there's going to be a cap on the amount of international students that are going to be coming into Canada in 2024, to which the minister stated that there are going to be only 360,000 study permits that would be issued in the year 2024, and the fact that provinces would have to share the 360 between each other. So there was a huge cap that reduced the numbers of international students coming into Canada. But guess what? the minister announced yesterday that there's going to be like a further 10% reduction in the year 2025, to which is going to come down more. So, my take on this analysis basically is to the fact that when, international student comes into Canada to study, so that they can be sure that while studying, I am going to adequately study without having to think about housing, without having to think about feeding, and also they can be sure that when they are done with school, if they don't want to go back home, they can decide to look for future employment in the future. So I also think that all of these things are the reason why there needs to be that cap, because right now the amount of students that are in Canada right now with expired work permits, or probably with their PGWP coming into expiration, is not easy. So, and now allowing further people to come into the country, you can then imagine what things would be. The people on ground are not sorted, and you still want further people to come into the country. The truth of the matter, I've never said, oh, don't allow people to come into the country. But when you allow people to come into the country to study particularly, make sure that there's adequate protection or adequate resources for these people coming into the country. And which brings me to the question of you as an international student trying to come into Canada. Looking at all of these policies and everything that is happening, what do you think you want to do? Do you still want to come to Canada to study? Even if you want to come to Canada to study, are you prepared? Do you have the finances to be able to sustain yourself regardless of all of these policies? Think about that. And the most important thing of all of this is to note that when you apply to Canada, to come to Canada to study in Canada, always have it at the back of your mind that it's a temporary study permit. It's not something that you're coming here and it's going to be like, oh, you are going to be here permanently. If you come in as a student and you work your way up to becoming a PR, to becoming somebody that wants to live into Canada, forever, fine. You have to get into that and you have to work your way into that. Don't have it at the back of your mind while being entitled that, yes, I've come here to study, I've paid over $100,000 and I cannot get a PR. It doesn't work like that. Do not be entitled. Look through the policies. See if you still feel like you need to come to Canada to study, or you have to go through other pathways, and just stick to what works for you. Which brings me to the quote on the website that the minister said yesterday, and I'm going to read out the quote to you. The minister said, "The reality is that not everyone who wants to come to Canada will be able to, just like not everyone who wants to stay in Canada will be able to." And the government said, "We are taking action to strengthen our temporary resident programs and roll out a more comprehensive immigration plan to meet the demands of today's changing landscape. Our immigration system must preserve its integrity and be well managed and sustainable. And we look forward. We will do everything it takes to achieve the goal and set newcomers up for success." Which just shows what I was just trying to say, that everything seems to be like a strain on the government and things are changing. And it just brings me to the fact that not everyone would be able to come to Canada to study. Not everyone will be able to come to Canada to live. Just look at your circumstances and see if you actually qualify for that. And that's just that about further reduction on international student coming into Canada. The next point I am going to be talking about is probably the point that has to do with the PGWP, whereby the government have now stated that a new addition, which was not part of the requirement before for PGWP student. I'm just going to drag back. PGWP is postgraduate work permit for students who have schooled here in Canada, are done with their school, and they want to get a work permit to be able to work in Canada for either 1 year or for 3 years. And casting your mind back to 2024 of January, they made some policy whereby they exempted some people from being able to, get work permit. And I think that this is slowly dragging down to PGWP candidates as well. And the new policy with this just basically states that from November 1st, 2024, PGWP applicants or people that are going to be applying for PGWP would now need to write English test exams. And it just doesn't make sense to me, because I've schooled here, I've studied here, and you still want me to take an English test just to show that I can prove to integrate myself further. Well, the government knows best. The government have seen things, and the schools have probably complained about things that they've seen. And the government basically says that if you're a university or you're a university graduate vying to apply for your PGWP, you have to make the CLB, that is the Canadian language benchmark of 7. And if you went to a college or you're a college graduate, you have to have CLB 5 to be able to, when you're applying for your PGWP. And now here is the confusion. When I listened to that, or when I later watched the video on YouTube, and I kind of like casted my mind back to the fact that this particular one will raise a lot of issues, because the fact that, is it going to be English test of academics, or is it going to be general? Remember that when you, as a student, when you want to get into the pool, you also have to provide a language test. Is the language test that you write for your PGWP, would it also be valid for your express entry or for whatever it is that you choose to use it for? It's quite intense when they make all these policies, and we later get to find out clarity later on. But the truth of the matter is, what I would say is that as an international student currently in Canada, reach out to your schools, reach out to the immigration department in your schools, and ask the questions that you need. What I find out that a lot of students don't ask questions until things have really gone bad. And then the issue then becomes, so what am I going to do? What do I need to do? Is that something that I need to do to help myself? And then that becomes an issue. But according to what I read online, I'll try and read out what I read online. This kind of like gave like some sort of clarity. And it basically says that international students currently studying in Canada will have the eligibility for the PGWP regardless of what program that is studying. Meaning that like right now, the people that are already in Canada right now would get access to PGWP. That because there are two legs as to this policy. The first leg says that for you to get PGWP, you have to be in the field that is in demand. It's just a lot. So should people just go home, pack your bags and go home? You have to be in a demanding occupation. And it says that prospective students who apply for a study permit before November 1st, 2024 will have their eligibility to PGWP regardless of what program they study. But now here is the catch. It says students who apply for a study permit after November 1st, 2024 will only be eligible for PGWP if their program of study meets a nationally identified labor needs. And they said the eligible program lists will be announced later this fall. I think that kind of like gave like a little bit of clarity as to what I was thinking about, because looking at the people here telling me that I have been here, studied, done a lot of things, telling me to go back and write English tests just looks like, oh, have I not integrated into the society a lot? But like I said, the government knows better, and the schools have probably been complaining about things that they've been seeing. But reading out this now just makes more sense, because if it's going to be on people that are just coming in, it really just makes sense. So put your ears out there, listen to what is going on in the news. Don't let any agent lie to you. If you get here, it is double trouble. So, and you don't want to be here having to spend 7 years of your life here and then eventually having to move back home. It's going to be very hard. So I would advise, my own personal advice to anyone I would tell right now is the fact that if you want to come to Canada to study, make sure that the course you're coming to Canada to study, if you're lucky enough to be part of the 437 that will be getting study permit in 2025, if you are still lucky to get an admission now, if you're coming to study in Canada, make sure that what you're coming to study is in demand in Canada. Don't just come and study anyhow course, because at the end of the day, you're going to not get a work permit and then you're going to have to leave Canada. So choose wisely. Third point I'm going to be talking about is about the changes to work permit for spouses of international students who were formally qualified, and also workers that are already in Canada, open work permit. Basically, there's also changes to that. I feel like the mod is going to touch everyone. Everyone is going to feel all this policy. Everyone is going to feel it one way or the other, because they are trying to cut migration or immigration into Canada, and the places they will have to look into are definitely going to be the temporary foreign work programs, because all of those things are temporary, and a lot of people are coming into the country without no backing. If you remember the last video that I made mention of the fact that part of also the laws that they made in 2024 of January was to the fact that spouses of students in colleges will no longer be able to get work permits, and they limited it only to spouses of people that were in universities that were studying master's program or some sort of professional degree. And they gave mention of to the fact that you have to be in a master's program. They didn't even put a cap, but now they are saying that people, for you to be able to qualify under as a spouse to get a work permit, your spouse's course has to be 16 months. It must not be, it must not be lesser than 16 months. So whether you're in a university, it doesn't matter. Your course has to be a 16-month course. Those are the only people that would be, eligible to get work permit. If your master's program is a 12-month program, you're probably not going to be able to get a 3 years work permit. It just keeps getting crazier by the day, every single time. So they made mention to the fact that, let me just read that, and it basically says that the government would be limiting work permit eligibility later this year to spouses of foreign workers in management or professional occupation or in sector with labor shortage under Canadian work permit programs. And that's the TWT, temporary foreign work permit, and also the the immigration mobility program. And it just shows to say that they are trying to limit everything to things in demand. It's not going to be just anybody being able to come to Canada or get a work permit for their partners. You have to be in an occupation that's in demand. And it just, like I said, it just keeps getting crazier, because what is the point of coming to work in Canada if my spouse cannot come with me to also work or to also stay? So it keeps getting tougher by the day. And, it's definitely going to reduce the amount of people that are going to be coming into Canada. So the fourth point I would be talking about touched up on the fact that the government have started saying that there's an huge increase or influx in the amount of asylum seekers in Canada. And asylum topic is a topic that I kind of tend to avoid a lot, because I don't want to talk about it. There's so much controversies going on in the media. You hear people say that, the officers at the airport are allowing people to come in, and they give them an option to either go back or seek asylum. So I like to not talk about it, but it's a good thing that the government talked about the fact that they've seen an influx of asylum seekers in Canada. And the honest truth of the matter is, in my opinion, I really don't think that it's going to change anytime soon, because there's a whole lot of people with expired PGWP. There's a whole lot of people with expired visas. And if they feel like they cannot go back home, the next thing that they fall back on is to seek asylum, which makes it very, very hard. So, and I feel like the government would also start to look into that as well, just to see what the loopholes are, what do we need to do, which is something that they mentioned, to make the process more efficient and more faster. So, and I personally know that there's going to be a whole lot of foreign workers and international students diverting to becoming asylum seekers when they don't actually have a way out of all of this. So I also feel like the government need to look into the fact that what is going to happen to all of these people with expired documents, considering the fact that they would never want to go back to their home country. What's going to happen to them? So in conclusion, I just want to say that taking a look, holistic look at all of these things that the government has stated, I'm not going to blame the government, quite frankly, because I feel like they're definitely going to do what works for them. They're definitely going to do what is best for the Canadians and also what is best for their people so that they can be happy as well. Because I've seen quite a lot of Canadians complain in the media that they are unhappy, they are unable to get a job, blah, 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 and things like that. So I just feel like as an international person who wants to come into Canada, there are several other pathways. You can consider going through the express entry. You can consider going through PMP. There's a whole lot that you can tap into. You don't have to come into Canada as an international student, because it's looking like the international students are coming in to burden the government the more. So I just feel like when you have the opportunity, make sure that you consider every pathway and not just coming into Canada as a student, because I'm telling you from my last video, I'm gonna say it now, because my last video I made mention of the fact that is it still ideal to come to Canada right now, but now I'm saying that right now it feels like the forces are against international students coming into Canada to study. So I feel like you should think twice, look at the options that are available for you. If it is a necessity for you to come and study in Canada, by all means, of course, you have to be financially capable to come into Canada to study, or you would face the consequences of actually coming into Canada to study. Because right now I feel like it's no longer worth it, except it is very, very necessary and important for you to come and study. I think that just brings me to the end of this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys back in my next video. I hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to leave a comment. If you have a question, don't forget to also ask in the question. Let's engage. Thank you so much. Bye.